Welcome to today's webinar, Snowflake for Marketing 101. We are thrilled to have you all joining us here today. My name is Kristen Pelletieri, and I am the Director of Account Management here at Simon Data, and I'm joined by Luke Ambrosetti, Senior Partner Solutions Engineer at Snowflake. Luke, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thanks, Kristen, for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, so during today's webinar, we'll be discussing how to bridge the gap between rich data you have in your Snowflake data cloud and enabling that data for marketing use cases and marketing outcomes. This is going to be a fun, informative, and engaging session, so your participation is definitely highly encouraged. So drop your questions in the Q&A box, and we'll address them as they come up or during our designated Q&A session at the end. So before we dive in, I quickly wanted to walk through the agenda so you can know what to expect for the next 30 minutes. First, we're going to discuss why marketers should care about their Snowflake data, how you can use Snowflake for marketing outcomes, and then we're going to discuss some specific use cases for customer engagement and retention. Finally, we'll conclude with some questions from the group. So, wanted to first preface, why are we having this webinar? Why is this topic so important? So before we dive in, briefly, wanted to speak to this specifically, thought it would be fun to relate to, some memes here. I don't need to tell you all that you're sitting on a gold mine of rich, valuable customer data. You already know that. But like an actual gold mine, it can be complicated to find and extract it. And as many of you use that data for marketing purposes. So these memes highlight some of those challenges that many companies will struggle with. Some of those are siloed data, a manual and messy, workflow, making it slow and difficult to use data for marketing purposes. And with this messy data, the dream of becoming truly data-driven seems further and further away. So before we dive into some of the content, we wanted to start with a brief poll, which I'm going to walk us through first, and then I'll launch it for the group. We want to see if any of these outcomes are true for you. And if you are, you're in the right place. So the first is that you are a Snowflake customer. Your business is on Snowflake. You want to extend that investment. You made squeeze more value out of it. We're really talking here to some of the data and tech folks here today. The next is inefficient workflows. So your workflows to use data are mostly manual or highly technical process. So maybe you need to know a lot of SQL and you need to know it very well to access data, or you're submitting a ticket to request audience data, clean it and organize it into a usable segment. Or maybe, you're having to reach out and, once you get that data, you are manually updating CSVs into other platforms. So you don't have, potentially the freshest data possible. The next one is you want to do more. So we're really talking to some of our marketers here today. You want to study your customer better to improve campaigns. You want to do more personalization, and you don't want to stress about access or data silos. And lastly, is you're generally curious, what Snowflake has to do with your marketing. And if there is another option that we haven't outlined here in the poll, please feel free to drop that in the chat as well. So I'll give everybody a few seconds. Seems like we have some results coming in. Give it 30 more seconds. Cool. Looks like we'll end the poll now. And I can share back the results with everyone. But looks like, thanks so much for taking the survey. It looks like we have a pretty diverse group in terms of, some of the problems that we are trying to solve. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Luke, to talk to our next slide of why marketers should care about their marketing data cloud.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Kristen. So there are three main reasons, about why marketers should really care about the marketing data cloud. And as you can see here, the very first is the data collaboration. Snowflake is that single platform for all of your data needs, right? Not just customer data, but enterprise data and even campaign data, right, for measurement. And the idea is that if everyone in the organization is working from the same data instead of all their own silo data, there'll be better decisions made across the org. So I hear like a lot of folks from the IT data org talking about getting better data governance for their marketing teams, and really this is how you do it. Snowflake offers some specific functionality here, like secure data sharing that can make data integration go from painful to painless. And I won't dive in all of that today. But another one for marketers is data clean rooms, where it's important, maybe more important for the acquisition marketers, maybe less for the retention marketers that might be here. But as we go into the final year, cookie deprecation, data clean rooms are also going to be a key part of just data collaboration going forward. The next big part really is the application ecosystem, and this is where Simon comes in. There's been a really popular trend the past few years, and not to pat ourselves on the back too much. I think it really comes from Snowflake making it so easy to stand up data infrastructure. When you think about it, 10 plus years ago, standing up your own enterprise data platform wasn't so easy. Now with Snowflake Smart Data Cloud, marketers and martech, these data product teams are not well equipped to handle these data challenges within Snowflake, and so brands have been putting more and more of their data right in Snowflake as a core for their marketing operations. And so when you think about the application ecosystem here, this is where Simon Data comes in. Simon brings their application now to your data in Snowflake. So instead of troubling you with months and months of data integration and setting up data like brittle FTP pipelines, Simon can use the data as it sits in Snowflake. And it doesn't have a very strong opinion on how that data should be synced, right? So they're going to use the data as it is. So it gives you that flexibility to model the data for your business as well. And then finally, it's we can't talk these days in a webinar presentation without mentioning AI ML, right? But for AI ML, both Simon and Snowflake can help you there, right? Now, whether it's us here, I guess for me personally overall, whether it's us, whether it's someone else, don't let anybody talk to you about an AI strategy or AI functionality without first solidifying or talking to you about a data strategy. You need good data for good AI at the end of the day, right? That old saying, right? Garbage in, garbage out. The same thing for AI at the end of the day. So once you have a data strategy within Snowflake, both Snowflake and Simon can harness the power of Gen AI and classic machine learning to give both the brand and the consumers just a much better customer experience. Snowflake has a few innovative features here, which I won't go into too deeply. This is just a one-on-one session. But when it comes to hosting LLMs inside of Snowflake, you can do that in a very privacy focused manner. And we even make it easy with things like Snowflake Cortex. And again, the cool thing here is that once we come out with these functionalities, Simon can immediately take advantage of them on top of your data in Snowflake.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Luke.
Yeah.
So really wanted to, build on that a little bit more and talk about how you can use Snowflake for marketing. So the answer is a CDP that sits directly on top of your Snowflake instance. If you don't know what a CDP is, it stands for Customer Data Platform, and it is a tool that unifies your customer data across all sources and all types. So think of online, offline, real-time events, data from your cloud data warehouse, and any other marketing engagement data. CDPs create one single profile for each of your customers, and they enable marketers to create highly sophisticated customer segments, which in turn turn into highly personalized campaigns spanning multiple channels in some cases, all of which helps drive your business's revenue. So now I'm going to talk a little bit more about Simon CDP, but I promise to keep it short so that we can move into use cases. And ultimately, if you're on Snowflake or implementing Snowflake, you've made that investment. So why not try to extend that investment to your marketing ecosystem? So like I said, Simon Data is Snowflake's connected CDP, which means it is built on top of Snowflake, connects directly to your Snowflake and enables marketing teams to activate that data directly from Snowflake. So what does a connected CDP mean for marketing teams. There are several benefits over traditional non-connected Snowflake CDPs, and I'll cover them quickly here. If you have any questions along the way, please feel free to pop them into the Q&A box, and we'll address them in a little bit. But the first is, marketers can create those highly sophisticated segments that you need for campaigns easily. So Simon Data's segment builder is self-serve and no code, so you don't need to know any SQL, and you don't need to ask your data or engineering team to pull that data within your CDW. So engineers get time back, and you can launch campaigns really quickly and iteratively. Next is real-time processing, which is extremely important for certain marketing campaigns. For example, abandoned cart campaigns, you want that event data in real time so you can see exactly when and what a customer, abandoned, and follow up with them in real time to get them to purchase. Next is no data replication. So the data remains your single source of truth, in this case, in Snowflake, until it's ready for activation. So other CDPs require data replication if they're not connected, which means now you have a second source of truth. Another added benefit of having your single source of truth remain within Snowflake is that you also inherit Snowflake security and governance. And the last is another big benefit around Snowflake's, our Simon Snowflake connected CDP, is that it's built from composability. So you can use and integrate all of the existing tools you know and love, such as Braze, Iterable, Salesforce, etc. Because your Snowflake is your single source of truth and houses all of your customer data, everything you need to know about your customer, you would use the Simon CDP, again, directly layering on top of your Snowflake to develop all those hyper-specific audiences that you need. And we talked a lot about, the connected infrastructure and wanted to share a little bit around what that architecture looks like from a very high level. So on the left-hand side, you can see how we are connecting directly to a customer Snowflake, again, sitting right on top of Snowflake. Ideally, all of your customer data is funneling into your Snowflake instance. And with Simon's seamless connection to Snowflake, marketers can easily access that customer data to build audience segments and then sync those audiences and orchestrate your campaigns to all marketing channels, which we see on the right are some of the most popular examples, such as SMS, email, paid media, push, and more. Simon Snowflake connected CDP also allows customers to leverage the core capabilities of a CDP, such as identity stitching, reporting, and other additional Simon SKUs as well, such as ID Plus, Match Plus, and predictive models. So lastly, all of your campaign data from those channels will get funneled back into your Snowflake data cloud for further analysis. So now let's talk about some of the fun stuff, which is the use cases and practical examples of how our clients use Snowflake and Simon together for engagement and retention. So the first example that we want to talk about is real-time targeting based on recent purchase history. So Simon, again, sitting directly on top of the customer Snowflake instance, with the power of our schema builder, we are able to directly connect to a customer's tables within Snowflake. And since Simon is sitting directly on top of a customer Snowflake instance, we are able to, in real time, extract data from their Snowflake's tables to allow for marketer campaigns to create segments. And the data in Simon's Snowflake Builder is updating at the cadence in which the underlying table refreshes. So in most cases, nearly real time. And this allows for Simon and Snowflake clients to action on their customer data in almost real time, giving customers a very relevant and personalized experience with your brand. So we have a little demo here on the right, and I can play it again, which is ultimately showing and highlighting Simon's segment builder within our connected application. Awesome. So the next use case that we want to talk about is featuring Vimeo, a Simon and Snowflake customer. So Vimeo was looking to optimize their abandonment messages and convert more free account users into free trial users. So after, basic tracking of abandoned upload events, the Vimeo team used Simon data to trigger an email via Salesforce Marketing Cloud that reminded the user to complete the action, but engagement rate still remains low. They needed more granular event data at a lower latency to ensure abandonment messages were being sent at the exact right moment. So Simon Data's real-time connection to Snowflake allowed Vimeo to build segments using data that was not readily available within Salesforce Marketing Cloud, including the precise moment a user abandoned their video upload. And with that, they used Simon's no-code segmentation tool to quickly build segments, which were continually and automatically updating in response to real-time user behavior. They also ran experiments, testing some of the send times within Simon's platform, and this resulted, engagement data that was fed back into their analytics ecosystem for continued learning and optimization. So as a result of all of this, and after many, many iterations, we saw with Vimeo a 300% increase in trial conversions.
I think one of the things I want to add here, Kristen, on this use case that may not be super obvious, right? One of the cool things about using Snowflake as part of this architecture is having not even just the customer data, but the other contextual data, right? You can even do experiments. So here we did experiments off of, sorry, Vimeo did experiments off, of the abandonment and and maybe some sort of delay on how much when they got the message of when to come back. But when you connect to Snowflake, you get so much other rich data. So for me that might be like the video metadata, right? Of like how big was the video, or how long was the video itself, what kind of tags that it had. And so you can use a lot of that metadata, or video metadata in this case, also for your marketing purposes as well. It's not, not just based on the pure customer data side. So I think that's one huge benefit here that, that brands have access to when they go through and use Snowflake as a part of their campaigns.
Yeah, no, really good point.
And just, to keep going on that, use case or, scenario, maybe if you're a retailer, right, that's inventory data, or that's, even transaction level data. A lot of these data points, I would say MarTech, whether it's the CDP or ESP, don't want to capture, because it's just a lot of data that they have to go through and process. And so that's why kind of the Snowflake and Simon relationship works really well, because again, Simon will just come and get that data that's already sitting in Snowflake for you.
Yeah. No, thanks for adding that. Awesome. Well, those were all the slides that we had. We did want to reserve some time for any Q&A. So we'll give a minute to see if anybody has any questions. Okay, we do have one question. And it is around, what does the typical onboarding process look like for Simon's connected architecture with Snowflake? So I can take that one. I think that, the Simon team partners really closely with our customers during the onboarding process. And part of that onboarding process is, making sure that we set initial goals and KPIs to achieve, that onboarding. But, the Simon team provides a robust onboarding project plan, clearly outlining, some of the roles and responsibilities, from our side and also from the customer side. And our team requires a direct connection to the client Snowflake instance, and we'll start setting up end channels such as your ESP, SMS channels, as well as paid media. And this process typically takes anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks to get a customer fully onboarded with Simon. However, during that onboarding process, your CSM will work closely with you to identify some early use cases that you can launch maybe in, week 3 or week 4, depending on the progress that we're all making. Don't know if there's anything you would add, Luke, from the Snowflake side to that.
Oh yeah, I think Kristen, you probably have the most experience onboarding folks in this pattern. So
Great.
I'll answer that next one.
Yeah.
I just saw, but you want to take Brian's first? I saw Brian also had a question here.
Yeah, definitely. Brian, you asked, can you talk a little bit more about the no code segmentation? Is that created by Simon, manually developed, or both? So within our Simon Data UI, you will see that there is a no code segmentation tool, and essentially, that is something that the Simon team has already built. So what you will use is our schema builder, where you will select tables within your Snowflake instance, of which tables, have maybe specific fields that we want to bring in for segmentation purposes. So you will do, some data extracting and, looking at certain tables within the schema builder, but the segmentation tool is truly no code.
Yeah, it gives you effectively a way to map things in Simon's UI to what the underlying schema is in Snowflake. That's effectively what that's doing. And so once Simon knows that underlying schema, then as the marketing team is going around and actually building these no code audiences, it's translating that to SQL and Snowflake under the hood.
Mhm. Exactly.
I'll take this other question here, which is interesting. I would say if you're connecting to a CDP like Simon, maybe you have a bit more context because they have access to a lot of that data in Snowflake. But I've seen others here who will just say, oh yeah, we'll connect to your ESP, and that's all we need to do. And I personally don't think that's a great strategy for a messaging platform, might only have click and open and unsubscribe data for you to actually train models on. It's not, that's something you could definitely do something with that. But I think there's a lot more possibilities, and you can probably drive a lot more bottom line revenue if you actually connect more of your data from a platform like Snowflake, right? So it might depend on the situation, but I just be careful about how much you invest in a tool that limits in the type of data that it can train on, for sure.
Great. Are there any other questions? Nope. Alrighty. Well, great. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out, to myself or Luke, and have a great day.